What if an entire galaxy feared humanity, not because of our weapons, but because of our will to fight for what's right? When peace-loving aliens watched us laugh, argue, and take risks, they called us unstable. But everything changed the moment. Fire came through the walls. In the face of real danger, it wasn't the Council or their rules that stood tall. It was the humans. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and show a little love by hitting that like button with a solid thumbs up. Now, let's jump into the story. The Lazara port shimmered like a floating lantern in the void of space. With its curved towers and wide docking wings, it looked more like a piece of art than a space station. Ships from every corner of the galaxy came and went, bringing beings of all shapes and colors. Among them, for the very first time, was a small Earth vessel, its sleek silver body marked with blue stripes and a simple Earth flag. As the ship landed, hundreds of alien eyes watched in quiet curiosity. Captain Ryan Howell stepped out first. He was calm on the outside, but his mind raced. This was humanity's first major step into a larger galactic community, and the entire galaxy was watching. Behind him walked Dr. Mara Sorrell, her datapad clutched tightly in her hands. She had spent years studying alien languages, customs, and traditions, but she knew that no amount of study could prepare her for this moment. Close behind was Talon Gray, a former rescue pilot turned security officer. He scanned the crowd with sharp eyes, alert for danger, but also amazed by the sheer variety of life surrounding them as they walked through the grand corridor of Lazara port. Silence seemed to follow. Some aliens stepped aside to give them room. Others whispered to their companions in musical tones or sharp clicking sounds. Ryan noticed it all polite, yet distant. Curious, yet cautious. They're watching us like we're dangerous animals, Myra whispered. Let them watch. Ryan said softly. This is new for them too. They were greeted by Sivan, a tall, fluid-looking alien whose body shimmered like water under light. Sivan introduced himself as a guide assigned by the Council. His voice flowed calmly, like a stream. Welcome, humans of Earth. Please follow me to the Council chamber. The walk to the chamber was long and full of stairs. The humans tried to smile, to look open and kind, but the tension in the air was clear. When they reached the massive circular room, Ryan took a deep breath. The chamber was filled with representatives from over 30 species. Some floated in the air, others had wings or multiple limbs. The humans were asked to sit in the center, surrounded on all sides like guests at a trial. The questions began. Immediately, Counselor Bravian, a reptilian being with glowing green eyes, leaned forward. We have studied your history. You war against your own kind. Even now, your cultures engage in violent sports. Why? Myra and Ryan had prepared for this. Ryan answered calmly. Our past has many dark chapters. But Earth has been at peace for over 5 decades. We still compete, yes, but our sports have rules. They build teamwork, not hate. Another counselor, soft-voiced and insect-like, asked, But you risk your lives for fun? Jumping from aircraft? Racing machines at dangerous speeds? Why take such chances? It teaches courage, Myra replied. It teaches people to face fear. Not all risk is reckless. There were murmurs across the room. Some counselors looked skeptical, others even alarmed. One alien whispered loudly enough to hear, They willingly injure themselves and call it bravery. The humans could feel the weight of judgment growing with each question. The Council wanted to understand, but they also feared what they didn't. No. They didn't just want answers. They wanted proof that humans belonged among them. After nearly 2 hours, the questions finally slowed. The room was quiet, the air heavy. Ryan shifted in his seat, feeling like an animal on display. Myra stared at the ground, quietly frustrated. No matter how carefully they explained, the aliens only seemed to hear danger in their words. As they were dismissed, Sivan guided them back through the hallways. He didn't say much, but his posture had changed. A little stiffer, a little more cautious. Ryan noticed. "Do you think we made it worse?" Mira asked as they reached the quiet quarters set aside for them. "They just don't know us," Ryan said. "They've lived in peace for so long, they forgot what real strength looks like." Talon, who had been quiet the entire time, finally spoke up. "Or maybe they've never needed it. Maybe they don't see strength the same way we do." Later, that night, Ryan looked out a large window into the stars. Ships moved in and out of the port like bees in a hive. Everything seemed so peaceful, so organized. Yet he could feel the cracks under the surface. The aliens had built a society based on trust and harmony. But what if that peace was only possible because someone else, somewhere, kept the wolves at bay? That thought stayed with him as he lay down to rest. Humanity had come here to build bridges, to share knowledge and culture. But now, Ryan wasn't sure if that was enough. Trust could take years. And fear? Fear could rise in moments. What? He didn't know yet was that soon. Everything would change. The galaxy, so calm and quiet now, would face a threat it hadn't seen in generations. And the very traits the aliens feared in humans' courage, adaptability, and the will to fight would become the one thing that could save them all. Nyla Vane stood in the center of her newly opened bar, wiping down a wooden counter she had. Imported from Earth, the bar was called Lantern Drift, and it sat on the edge of the commercial wing of Lasara Port. Soft golden lights hung from the ceiling, casting a warm glow on the mismatched furniture she had carefully chosen round. Tables, deep chairs, and a jukebox that played classic Earth music. To Nyla, it felt like home. To the aliens that had started wandering in, it felt. Confusing, curious stares came from every corner. A floating creature with eyes on stalks hovered over a booth, trying to understand the idea of sitting still. A furry, four-legged merchant from the outer rim sniffed a plate of fried food before deciding not to eat it. Every day brought new guests, each one fascinated by the odd smells, strange decorations, and even stranger human behavior. Nyla had once run a food truck in New York, but nothing could have prepared her for this. Still, she greeted every alien with a grin and an open hand. "Welcome to a little piece of Earth," she would say, motioning to the walls covered in photos of landscapes, sports posters, and faded menus. For her, the Lantern Drift was more than a bar, it was a message. It said, "We're here, we belong, and we're not that different from you." At first, the aliens came just to watch. They sat quietly, took notes, and whispered in languages that sounded like glass clinking or drums tapping. Some recorded the behavior of the human customers, laughing loudly, hugging, even arguing over a game of cards. To many alien cultures, such raw emotion in public was alarming. Why did humans show their feelings so easily? Why did they raise their voices and wave their arms when they talked? One evening, a regular group of engineers from the station arrived at the bar. Bane Rivers, a human technician who had been fixing systems on Lasara Port for weeks, joined them. Bane was known for using odd solutions, twisting wires by hand, rerouting power with chewing gum and duct tape. Alien engineers were baffled by his results. "You didn't follow any protocol," said Ralik, a mechanical specialist with soft green skin and a row of tiny eyes. "The handbook clearly says." Bane smiled and took a sip of his drink. "Sometimes. The handbook's the problem. I fixed the problem, didn't I?" Ralik's eyes blinked in confusion. "Yes, ... But unpredictability is dangerous." "Sure," Bane said. "But when the door's stuck and people can't breathe, you don't wait for permission. you make it work. That answer spread through the engineering levels like wildfire. Bain's methods became the talk of workshops and repair halls. Some aliens admired his quick thinking. Others saw it as more proof that humans were reckless. Meanwhile, Nyla began hosting small cultural nights at the Lantern Drift. She played Earth documentaries, served simple Earth food, and invited humans to share stories. One night, she told the tale of a firefighter who ran into a burning building to save a stranger's child. Another night, a human trader told of surviving a storm at sea. The stories were raw, sometimes tragic, but always full of heart. The aliens listened, stunned. A young alien named Julo, who looked like a floating starfish with glowing eyes, came up to Nyla after one of the story nights. "Why do your stories always involve danger?" They asked. Nyla thought for a moment. "Because life does. And sometimes we don't get to choose when it shows up. But we do get to choose what we do when it does." Julo floated silently, then sighed. "That is terrifying and beautiful." Not everyone was convinced. Salix, a tall, insect-like peacekeeper, watched the bar with increasing suspicion. "These gatherings are unpredictable," she told the council. "Humans bring chaos wherever they go. They laugh too loud. They fight. They frighten others. But they also help," countered another counselor who had quietly visited the bar. "They make people feel connected." The council remained divided. Human emotion was difficult to understand. Their stories often sounded like tales of madness. Who would willingly climb a mountain that could kill them? Who laughed while racing at impossible speeds? To many species on the station, such behavior meant something was broken inside. Still, more aliens came to the Lantern Drift. Some just wanted to listen. Others started asking questions. One night, a group of scientists arrived and ended up in a 2-hour discussion about the psychology of risk-taking. Another night, a musician from a gas-based species tried playing along with a jukebox and created a melody that sounded like wind in a forest. Yet the more they listened, the more they questioned. The humans weren't just thrill-seekers. They were builders, storytellers, protectors. Their passions didn't come from a love of violence. They came from a deep desire to feel alive, to connect, to matter. And still, there was tension. Rumors began to spread that the council might vote to restrict human presence. Some said Earth's culture was too dangerous. Others believed humanity needed to be studied further, at a distance. But inside the Lantern Drift, none of that mattered. Each night, humans laughed and danced, played games and shared meals. And slowly, one alien at a time, others joined in. They didn't always understand, but they felt something real. And in a galaxy where everything was measured, weighed, and recorded, that feeling was something rare. Something human. The alarm began as a soft hum that few on Lysaraport noticed. At first, it blended in with the station's usual background noise, engines humming, footsteps echoing, voices murmuring in many alien tongues. But within seconds, the hum grew louder. Then the flashing red lights came. A voice echoed across every corridor, in multiple languages. "This is not a drill. All residents proceed to secure zones immediately." In the engineering section, Bain Rivers was fixing a faulty pressure valve when he heard the message. He dropped his tools and looked through a small observation window. What he saw made his stomach twist. Ships were approaching the station fast. Aggressive ships with weapons mounted across their hulls. They weren't merchant vessels. They weren't council patrols. These were raiders. Bain turned to the alien technician beside him. "Get to safety," he said. "Now." In the Lantern Drift, Nyla Vane was serving drinks to a mix of human and alien patrons when the alarm pierced the calm music. Everyone stopped. Glasses clinked softly against tables as silence spread. "What does it mean?" asked one of the regulars, a bulky, armor-clad alien named Horthic. "It means trouble," Nyla said. She didn't wait for more details. She bolted behind the bar and started pulling out a box of tools and supplies. She had hidden their old habit from a lifetime spent on rougher planets. Elsewhere, Captain Ryan Halley ran through a dim hallway toward the station's command center. He'd seen military briefings on possible threats to Council space, but no one believed anyone would dare attack Lysara Port. Now, those fears had become real. Inside the command room, chaos reigned. Alien officers barked orders in strange languages, their hands moving over control panels as screens lit up with incoming ship data. "How many ships?" Ryan asked the nearest officer, a glowing blue being with shifting patterns of light on its skin. 15, the officer replied, clearly rattled. "Heavily armed, shields active. They're not responding to hails." Ryan looked at the tactical screen. The ships had already surrounded the station. "Do you have weapons ready?" "We were not designed for battle," said the officer. "Our patrol fleet is light and mostly ceremonial." The words felt like ice in Ryan's chest. Lysara Port had never prepared for war. Why would it? The Council believed peace was the natural state of all evolved species. Now that belief was about to be tested. Meanwhile, the attackers made their move. Explosive charges lit up the outside of the station. Docking arms tore. Airlocks blew apart. Pirates stormed in, armored and armed with heavy weapons. Their leader, Khan Doran, was a terrifying figure with sharp armor and a mechanical jaw that clicked when he spoke. He didn't bark orders. He gave them like quiet facts, his voice cold and steady. The station's peacekeepers tried to resist, but their equipment meant for handling disputes and crowd control was no match. Their stun. Weapons bounced off pirate armor. Within minutes, 3 sections of the station had fallen. The pirates moved forward, clearing corridors like hunters chasing prey. Bane ran through maintenance tunnels, trying to reach the lantern drift. He knew Nyla would stay behind. She wouldn't run, not while people needed help. His path was slow some. Corridors were already blocked by emergency seals, others full of terrified civilians rushing to shelters. Inside the bar, Nyla had locked the doors and dimmed the lights. She looked around at the people who had gathered there, 23 humans and 6 aliens, all frightened, all unarmed. "We don't have much time," she said. "If they get here, they won't be friendly." Rick Talon, a former firefighter who had been working as a cargo handler, stepped forward. "We need to make this place defensible." Tables, chairs blocked the doors. Bottles, weapons. Everyone sprang into action. The bar, built for comfort and laughter, quickly turned into a fortress. Furniture was flipped, glass was broken, and sharp tools were handed out. They weren't soldiers, but they were human. They knew how to improvise. They knew how to survive. Captain Halley contacted Rick through an emergency line. "They're heading your way. You'll have maybe 10 minutes. "Understood," Rick said. "We're making a stand." Ryan wanted to argue, but he didn't. He knew the Council would not save them. The humans were on their own. When the pirates reached the outer corridor of the bar, they slowed. One of them chuckled. "A bar? They're hiding in a bar?" The lead pirate stepped forward and planted a charge on the door. Inside, Nyla lit a makeshift torch. "When the door blows, we hit hard." No hesitation. The explosion shook the room. Smoke and fire rolled in. Then the pirates entered 6. Heavily armored figures, weapons raised. But they weren't ready for the chaos that met them. The room was dark. Lights flickered. A burning bottle hit one pirate's armor, coating it in flame. Screens followed. Tables crashed. Pipes slammed into helmets. A knife slashed at a weapon hand. The pirates stumbled, disoriented. These weren't panicked civilians. These were people fighting for their lives and for each other. Bane arrived through a side door, just in time to tackle one pirate to the ground. He wrenched the pirate's weapon away and shouted, "We hold this ground. No one gets through." The battle lasted minutes that felt like hours. Smoke filled the air. Screams and shouts rang out. Some were wounded. Everyone was exhausted. But when the last pirate fell back, dragging his unconscious comrade, the bar still stood. Aliens watching through security feeds across the station stared in silence. They had seen humans laugh, argue, and play. But they had never seen them fight like this, not for power, not for pride, but to protect strangers. The battle had ended, but something bigger had just begun. The Council had feared humans for their passion and fire. Now, they had seen what that fire could do when it was used to shield the weak. The walls of the lantern drift were scorched, but inside, hearts were burning brighter than ever. Asterisk, the day after the attack on Lissaraport, the halls were quieter than usual. Emergency lights still blinked in some corridors, and patches of scorched metal marked where explosions had torn through the walls. Repair crews moved quickly, but the damage couldn't be hidden. Even more noticeable than the broken panels or flickering lights was the way the station's residents looked at the humans now. Eyes that had once watched with suspicion or fear now held something different. Respect. Captain Ryan Hawley sat in the medical wing, his right arm wrapped in a cooling brace and a bandage across his forehead. Around him, human and alien medics worked side by side, treating injuries from the battle. Some were minor burns, others were from blunt weapons, but no lives had been lost in the lantern drift. Against all odds, the humans had protected themselves, and dozens of alien civilians, without formal weapons, training, or backup. Dr. Myra Soral entered the room, carrying her datapad. Her eyes were tired, but she smiled. "The Council wants to speak with us today." Ryan raised an eyebrow. "Already?" "They've seen the security footage," she said. "Everyone has. It's being shared across the galaxy." An hour later, the main council chamber was filled again, but the mood was completely different. Before, the humans had sat under a cloud of doubt, every move questioned, every word twisted. Now, they entered to quiet nods, even a few soft greetings. Captain Hawley was joined by Nyla Vane, her arm in a sling. Bane Rivers, still dusty from repair work. And Rick Tallon, walking with a slight limp. Behind them stood Mara, calm and steady. Counselor Bravian, who had once led the most critical questions, stood and addressed the room. "We watched as your people defended this station, with no request for reward, with no advantage to gain. You fought not just for yourselves, but for us." Another counselor, one with a voice like falling leaves, added, "We believed humans were unstable, that your passion made you dangerous. But yesterday, you used that passion to protect the innocent." Footage appeared on the central display, a silent reel of grainy images from security cameras. It showed humans dragging injured civilians to safety. Others stood over unconscious pirates, guarding the helpless. Some passed tools hand to hand, building barricades. One shot showed Bane rewiring lights to flicker on and off, confusing the enemy. Another showed Nyla tossing a flaming bottle at an advancing pirate, while shielding a frightened alien child behind the bar. "We had our reasons for fearing your species," said Salix, the tall insect-like peacekeeper. "Your history is full of war. Your cultures celebrate challenge and conflict. But now, we see that those traits are not flaws. They are choices. And they can be used for good." Ryan stood. "We told you before, we don't fight because we love to. We fight when we must." Our people grew up hearing stories of heroes who stood between danger and those who couldn't protect themselves. That's in us. It's not just history. It's part of who we are. Nyla stepped forward. We're not perfect. We argue. We make noise. We push boundaries. But we also show up when it counts. We take risks to help others. We face fear soothers don't have to. Counselor Bravian lowered his head in what Ryan had come to recognize as a sign of humility. The council has voted. Earth is accepted into the alliance, not just as members, but as allies. We hope you will share your knowledge, your training, and your strength with us. Cheers didn't erupt. That wasn't how council meetings worked. But soft applause echoed around the chamber. For the first time, humans were not outsiders. They were equals. Weeks passed. The station slowly returned to normal, but the changes were everywhere. The Frontier Guard, the station's peacekeeping force, began working with human volunteers to train in defensive tactics. Nyla reopened the lantern drift, and the crowd was now larger than ever, with aliens from every section of the station, stopping by not just to watch, but to join. The new sign above the bar read, "Defenders welcome here." Bain helped rebuild damaged systems with mixed-species engineering teams. His way of thinking, simple, creative, direct, began to influence how other species solved problems. Mira launched an exchange program where humans and aliens learned each other's traditions and stories. What had once been misunderstandings slowly became connections. But the biggest change was something no one could write down or measure. It was in the way an alien would pause before judging a human. The way they listened longer. The way they smiled back. One evening, Ryan stood outside the bar, looking out through the clear window at the stars. Mira joined him, holding 2 mugs of tea. She handed him one and followed his gaze. "Think they'll still call us crazy?" he asked with a small smile. "Maybe," she said, "but now they'll call us brave too." He nodded. "We didn't just earn a seat at the table. We earned trust." She sipped her tea. "And we showed them that peace doesn't mean being soft. It means being ready to stand for what matters." The stars sparkled in the distance, cold and endless. Somewhere out there, other dangers waited. Other choices would have to be made. But for now, in this moment, humanity had found its place among the stars, not through silence or submission, but through the fire that came from standing together. And that fire, no matter how misunderstood, had lit the way forward.